$100 MBA Show, where a 10-minute investment lasts a lifetime with a daily 10-minute business lessons for the real world. I'm your host, your coach, your teacher, Omar Zenhom. I'm also the co-founder of the $100 MBA, a complete business training and community online. Check out what we're cooking over at 100mba.net. Today's episode is a must-read episode where I share with you a book that has greatly influenced me as an entrepreneur. I share with you some of its takeaways, some of its insights. I also share with you why you should read the book too. Today's must-read is Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. This is Robert Kiyosaki's second Rich Dad book, the first one being Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the original. This is book number 2, and I think now he has about 17 or something. Seriously, they have a lot of books. But I actually enjoyed Cash Flow Quadrant more than I enjoyed Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's more practical, it's more tactical. Even though Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the most popular Robert Kiyosaki book, and we actually covered it in a must-read episode here on the $100 MBA Show. It's a great book. It's a great mind shift. But Cash Flow Quadrant gets into the nitty-gritty of financial education. It talks about all the different ways you can make money. And actually, there aren't many. There are 4. I'm going to go through each cash flow quadrant, the takeaways of the book, and my personal advice when it comes to reading this book, how to read it, and what you can get out of it. Let's get into it, guys. Let's get down to business. Today's episode of the $100 MBA Show is sponsored by HostGator. HostGator is an all-in-one website hosting solution. Whether it's domain names, whether it's hosting your site, whether it's design services, marketing services, they got your back, and they do it all without breaking the bank. Just go to HostGator.com and use promo code OMARHookup to get 25% off web hosting. Again, that's HostGator.com, promo code OMARHookup. The tagline or the subtitle of this book is A Guide to Financial Freedom. And it basically helps you define your financial goals. Where are you now? Where you want to be in 5 years' time? And it's a good follow-up from the original Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now, this book is split into 3 parts. Before I get into the 3 parts of the book, I need to define what these quadrants are so any of this can make sense. So Robert Kiyosaki breaks down cash flow into 4 quadrants. So if you have a paper and pen, or even just imagine this, a huge plus sign. And that way you have 4 quadrants, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. The top left-hand corner is E, which stands for employed. You have a job, you work for a company. It doesn't matter if you're a salary employee where you get a base salary, or you're an employee that gets some commission, or you get an hourly rate, or you work on tips. It doesn't matter. You're employed for a company. That's the quadrant E. In the bottom left-hand corner is a quadrant called S, which stands for self-employed. Now, this is different from a business owner, and that's a quadrant in itself. I'll tell you later. But self-employed is somebody who owns a practice or a business and is integral to cash flow in that business. So a good example of this is a doctor. Now, this doctor might have their own clinic, but she is the doctor for that clinic. She has to practice medicine in order to earn money. Same thing for a lawyer who has a boutique law firm, for example, or a freelance designer. They have a business, quote unquote, but they're self-employed. They are integral to the cash flow of the business. They have to work. So if they took off, they wouldn't be making money. So that's the left side. So top left is E, bottom left is S, self-employed. Let's get to the right side. Top right is B, stands for business owner. Somebody who runs a business. And the big difference between a business owner and self-employed is, you guessed it, if they walk away from the business, they're still making money. If I took 2 weeks off right now, will my business still make money? That means I'm not self-employed and I run a business. I'm a business owner. In the bottom right, we have I, which stands for investor, and that's somebody who's investing into different businesses or different ventures. Now, Robert's whole mission with this book is to get people from the left side of the quadrant, which is employed or self-employed, to the right side of the quadrant, being a business owner or investor. And he explains the difference between an employed or self-employed person versus a business owner or investor is huge. He says that's why only 10% of the population makes 90% of the money, because only 10% of the population are business owners or investors. And he tries to encourage you to change the way you think about the way you have cash flow in your life. Now, Robert is very big on making sure that everybody starts a business. He thinks it's the key to financial freedom. Now, you don't have to agree with everything that Robert says in the book. That's the beauty of books. Take what you want, leave what you don't. But he outlines 5 things that happen to people that don't have businesses, that don't start a business. And he says, number 1, they work hard all their lives. Now, there's nothing wrong with working hard, but you got to love what you do. And there's nothing wrong with being self-employed, like a designer or an artist, if that's what you enjoy. And that's a conscious choice and not feel like you have to make because there's no other way. Number 2, they worry about money all their lives. Now, this is not cool. Worrying about money is probably one of the biggest stresses you can have. A lot of people have arguments with their family, with their significant other because of financial stress. If you can alleviate that, that can really help the quality of your life. Number 3, they depend on others to take care of them. Whether that's the company's pension, whether that's the government's social security, or even their family or their children. Now, this is not always the case, but it's something that he outlines. Number 4, their boundaries are defined by money, meaning that they say to themselves, I can't do certain things because I can't afford it. Now, if you know Robert Kiyosaki, he grew up in a very middle class, even lower middle class family. And his father used to say, we can't afford it. And he used to not like that. While his best friend's father, who he called his rich dad, who was an entrepreneur, used to always say, how can we afford it? This is what he means by that. And number 5, he says they'll never know what true freedom is. Now, the whole purpose of this book is to get you to start thinking how you can stop working for money and let money work for you. When you're constantly part of the equation, when you have to be working in order to make money, this is an issue. What if you fall ill? Well, if you want to take a break, what if you want to travel the world? What if you don't want to travel the world? Or you just want to stay home and enjoy time with family or take a month off? Does that mean you can't pay your bills anymore? Does it mean you have to tap into your savings? This is why he encourages you to start a business. And once you start a business and you have a thriving business that's working for you and you have money making money or reinvesting in your business, you can start investing into other businesses, into other ventures. This is a very basic principle, but it's so important, and he outlines how you can make that transition. Guys, I got more on today's topic, more on today's must-read episode, but before that, I got to give love to today's sponsor, HostGator. Guys, if you're looking for an all-in-one website hosting solution, you got to go with HostGator. We use HostGator for the $100 MBA and Webinar Ninja, and we love them because they have 24/7 live support. That means anytime we need help with our website, they're there to help us out. If you want to upgrade something, change something, add a new domain name, whatever it is. And they're so awesome, they're giving everybody who's listening to the $100 MBA show a 25% discount. Just go to HostGator.com and use promo code OmarHookup. Again, that's HostGator.com, promo code OmarHookup. Guys, to wrap up today's lesson, I want to share with you why this book influenced me as an entrepreneur. When I was making the transition out of my job as a middle manager at the university I was working at into full-time entrepreneurship, I was scared because I was like, how am I going to make sure that I'm going to have steady income? You know, I had businesses on the side for years before that, but I didn't rely on that income. I relied on my salary to pay my bills. I knew I wanted to have a little bit more cash flow that didn't require me to always be working. I knew I would work hard to build my business, but eventually I can have other people take care of tasks. I can manage. I can have a bigger picture. I can kind of have a vision and start steering and help people in my business, the people that work for our team, to become better as employees and better as people and produce better solutions for our customers. But the reality is I needed to make sure that I can do this and be financially sound. And this book opened my mind to that, how to do that, how to move from the E quadrant to the B quadrant and not slip into the S quadrant. I'll be honest, I slipped into the S quadrant for a bit, but then I quickly realized this is not where I need to be. I need to make sure that I'm a business owner. So I highly recommend you pick up CASHFLOW Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. We'll put a link in today's show notes so you can pick it up on Amazon for the lowest price possible. We do that homework for you. Guys, if you loved today's episode, you love any of our episodes, let us know. We would love to hear it in an iTunes rating and review. And by showing us some love, we show you love. Every week on Friday, we give away a lifetime membership to the $100 MBA Training and Community. We do a weekly random draw with everybody who's left us an iTunes rating and review. And we just give away a free lifetime membership that includes over 180 video lessons, interviews with experts, workbooks, our great community inside of Facebook, a whole lot more. And it's our way to say thanks for showing us love on iTunes with a review. Guys, that wraps up today's lesson. But before I go, I want to leave you with this. Not many books are perfect. And this book is not perfect. I've said this before with Rich Dad Poor Dad, and this also applies with CASHFLOW Quadrant. It's not the best written book. It's not to say that Robert Kiyosaki is not an intelligent guy, a smart guy. He's actually very informative. It's really good, but it's simply not the best prose. But the flip side is that Robert has a great perspective. He didn't come from wealth. He came from a middle class, even a lower middle class family. His father was an educator. I think he was a superintendent at a school. And they were living paycheck to paycheck. But as we learned in Rich Dad Poor Dad, his neighbor, his best friend actually, his father was an entrepreneur. And he learned a lot from his quote-unquote rich dad. So he came from the ground up. So you might appreciate that perspective, and that alone will encourage you to keep reading the book. Plus, it's very practical, and the insights are priceless. All right, guys, I hope that helps, and I hope to see you in tomorrow's episode. I'll see you then, guys. Take care.